I was standing in the cereal aisle, frozen between two nearly identical boxes, trying to remember why I had come to the grocery store in the first place. My cart sat crooked beside me, one wheel refusing to cooperate, squeaking every time I nudged it. The store was busy in that dull, ordinary way, soft music playing overhead, a child whining somewhere near the frozen foods, the low murmur of conversations blending into a constant hum. I reached for the box on the left, then hesitated, my mind wandering the way it always did when I was tired, when the day had already taken more out of me than it had any right to. "I know you." The words landed softly but with enough weight to jolt me. I turned, half expecting to see a coworker or an old friend wearing a familiar smile. Instead, a woman stood a few feet away, her hands wrapped tightly around the handle of her shopping basket. She wasn't smiling. In fact, her expression was serious, almost cautious, as if she were bracing herself for something unpredictable. "Me, maybe." "I'm sorry," I said, my voice coming out slower than I intended. She studied my face, her eyes moving in quick, careful passes, as though she were checking details against a memory she'd carried for years. She looked ordinary enough: blue coat, dark hair loosely pulled back, faint lines around her eyes that suggested she'd smiled often in her life, just not right now. Yet there was nothing casual about the way she looked at me. It was intimate in a way that made my skin prickle. "I know you," she repeated, more quietly this time. I glanced down the aisle, suddenly aware of how exposed I felt under the harsh fluorescent lights. "Do you have me confused with someone else?" I asked. "That happens a lot." "No," she said, shaking her head almost immediately. "I don't." Something in her certainty unsettled me. "Have we met before?" "Not exactly," she replied. She took a step closer, then stopped, as if respecting an invisible boundary. "You wouldn't remember me." "I didn't think you would." The squeak of my cart wheel echoed awkwardly as I shifted my weight. "Then how do you know me?" She hesitated, her gaze dropping briefly to the floor before lifting back to my face. For a moment, I thought she might change her mind, apologize, walk away, let us both return to our lists and routines. Instead, she inhaled slowly and said, "I've been looking for you for a long time." My first instinct was to laugh it off. The words sounded dramatic, unreal, like the opening line of a bad movie. "I think you've got the wrong person," I said, forcing a thin smile. Her eyes didn't waver. 22 years ago," she said, "you were in a grocery store parking lot. Late evening. It had just rained." My smile faded. I hadn't told many people about that night. I hadn't told anyone, really. She continued, her voice steady now, as if reciting something she'd rehearsed countless times. "There was a green sedan parked near the far light pole. The engine wouldn't turn over. You were young, wearing a dark jacket, checking your watch like you were in a hurry." A chill crept up my spine. The memory surfaced without my permission, rainwater reflecting the orange glow of the parking lot lights, my hands cold as I fumbled with jumper cables, the smell of wet asphalt and engine oil. I remembered being annoyed, worried about getting home late, telling myself I'd help for 5 minutes and then leave. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, but my voice lacked conviction. She tilted her head slightly. "You almost didn't stop. You hesitated. I remember that part, too." My throat tightened. "That was a long time ago," I muttered. "Yes," she said, "it was." I noticed then that her hands were trembling, just slightly, as they gripped the basket handle. Whatever this was, it wasn't casual for her. It wasn't coincidence. "You helped a woman," she went on. "She was scared. She tried not to show it, but she was. You jump-started her car and told her to drive straight home. You didn't ask questions." I exhaled slowly. "You can't be sure that was me." She met my eyes, and something in her expression softened. I was in the back seat. The noise of the store seemed to fade, like someone had turned the volume knob down on the world. I remembered the back seat now, the shadowed shape of a small figure, silent, watching. At the time, I'd assumed the child was asleep. "I didn't see you," I said. "I know," she replied. "I saw you." I rubbed my palm against the side of the cart, grounding myself in the cold metal. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you didn't just help a car start," she said. "You helped us leave." A cashier's voice crackled over the intercom, announcing a price check, but it sounded distant, unreal. "Leave what?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she glanced toward the store entrance, where automatic doors slid open and closed as people came and went, carrying bags filled with ordinary things. "If you have 5 minutes," she said carefully, there's something you deserve to know. I hesitated. Every sensible part of me told me to excuse myself, to push my squeaky cart down the aisle and disappear into the safety of anonymity. But there was another part of me, older, tired, quietly wondering if any of the small things I'd done in my life had ever really mattered, that wouldn't let me walk away. I nodded once. 5 minutes. Relief flickered across her face, brief but unmistakable. She turned toward the front of the store, and I followed, leaving my half-filled cart behind, the cereal boxes still waiting for a decision that suddenly felt completely irrelevant. We sat on a narrow metal bench just outside the grocery store, the kind bolted into the concrete as an afterthought, cold even through my jacket. Automatic doors hissed open and shut behind us, releasing bursts of warm air and the faint smell of bread and detergent. Cars rolled past in the parking lot, headlights flashing briefly across Lena's face as she folded her hands in her lap, as if steadying herself. For a moment, neither of us spoke. I watched a cart corral sway slightly in the breeze and wondered how I'd ended up here, listening to a stranger whose presence felt anything but accidental. "My name is Lena," she said finally. "I've practiced saying that to you 1,000 times in my head." I nodded, unsure what to do with that. "I'm glad you found me," I said, though I wasn't sure yet why. She smiled faintly, then looked away, her gaze following a couple loading groceries into their trunk. "That night," she began, "my mother told me to stay very still. She said if I stayed quiet, everything would be okay." I was 7. I didn't know what okay really meant. I felt my chest tighten. "I didn't realize. You couldn't have," Lena said gently. "From the outside, it just looked like a broken down car and a woman trying not to cry. But we weren't just stranded. We were running." She told me about the man they were trying to escape, how his temper had grown sharper over the years, how apologies always came too late, how the final argument ended with her mother grabbing her hand and leaving with nothing but a purse and car keys. The engine failing in that parking lot had felt, to her mother, like the universe closing its fist. "She said when you pulled up," Lena continued, "she almost waved you away. She didn't trust kindness anymore. But you didn't pressure her. You just asked if she needed help and waited for her answer." I remembered that now, the way I'd kept my distance, the way I'd talked about the weather. While connecting the cables, as if normal conversation could make the moment safer for both of us. "She used to say that was the moment she believed we might survive," Lena said. "Not because you fixed the car. Because you treated her like she still deserved help." I swallowed hard. I was just doing what anyone would do. She shook her head. "Not anyone. Some people drove past. I remember their headlights." We sat in silence again, the weight of her words settling into me. I thought about all the times I'd replayed my life in my head, cataloging mistakes, missed chances, things I should have done better. That night had barely made the list. "My mom got us to a shelter before the doors closed," Lena said. "If she'd arrived 10 minutes later, they wouldn't have let us in." After that, things were still hard. But they were different, safer. I stared at the ground, my shoes planted firmly against the concrete. "Did you ever try to find me before?" "Once I was old enough," she said. "But all I had was a memory and a parking lot. No name, no license plate, just your face, and the way you told my mom to drive carefully." A small, unexpected laugh escaped me. "I always say that." "I know," she replied, smiling properly now. "That's how I knew it was you when I saw you in the aisle." Same voice, same eyes. Her smile faded, and she drew a slow breath. "My mother passed away last year." "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "Thank you." Lena nodded, composing herself. "Before she died, she made me promise something. She said if I ever found you, I should tell you that you mattered. That what you did wasn't small." I felt something shift inside me, a pressure I hadn't realized was there easing just a little. "I've had a rough few years," I admitted. "Sometimes it feels like everything I touch just disappears. Like none of it leaves a mark." Lena looked at me intently. "You left one. You left it on us." Her words lingered between us, heavy and warm at the same time. For the first time in a long while, I didn't immediately dismiss a compliment or deflect it with humor. "I almost didn't stop that night," I confessed. "I was tired, in a hurry. I remember thinking someone else would help. But you did," she said. "And that's the version of you my mom believed in." A car horn sounded nearby, sharp and brief, snapping the moment apart. Lena stood, lifting her grocery bags, the plastic handles stretching under their weight. "I won't keep you," she said. "I didn't come for anything more than this." I rose as well, suddenly reluctant to let the moment end. I'm glad you told me, I said. Really? She nodded, emotion flickering across her face again. I hoped you would be. She took a step away, then paused. One more thing, she added. My mom used to say that kindness echoes. You never hear most of it, but it's there. I watched her walk toward her car, blending into the movement of the lot, just another person heading home. When she drove away, I stood there longer than necessary, the evening air cool against my face. Eventually, I went back inside to retrieve my abandoned cart. The cereal boxes were still there, waiting. This time, I chose one without overthinking it. As I checked out and stepped back into the night, the store lights glowing behind me, the world felt subtly altered, like I was carrying proof that even the smallest moments could ripple outward, unseen but enduring.